In a world perpetually illuminated by the harsh glare of social media spotlights and digital surveillance, Marcus Hawthorne found himself increasingly suffocated by the weight of constant visibility. At 34, he had achieved what society deemed success: a corner office at a prestigious marketing firm, a meticulously curated Instagram feed showcasing his perfect life, and a network of acquaintances that spanned continents yet touched no soul deeply. Yet every morning as he scrolled through endless streams of carefully staged moments, Marcus felt an emptiness gnawing at his core, a void that grew with each like, comment, and virtual interaction. The paradox of modern existence had become his prison. The more connected he appeared, the more disconnected he felt from anything genuine. His days blurred into a monotonous cycle of meetings, social obligations, and maintaining appearances, leaving him wondering if anyone truly knew who he was beneath the polished veneer. Even his closest relationships felt transactional, existing, primarily to validate his constructed identity, rather than nurture authentic connection. What troubled Marcus most was his growing awareness of how deeply entrenched he'd become in this performative existence. Each decision seemed driven not by personal values or desires, but by external expectations and algorithmic approval. His worth had become intrinsically tied to metrics, follower counts, engagement rates, professional titles, that quantified everything except true fulfillment. The realization dawned on him during a particularly hollow networking event, where he caught himself mechanically exchanging business cards with strangers while reciting rehearsed elevator pitches about his brand. It was in this moment of profound disconnection that Marcus stumbled upon an ancient text, a battered copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations that had somehow survived the relentless march of e-books and digital libraries. As he flipped through its weathered pages, phrases like, "You have power over your mind, not outside events," and "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be." Be one struck him with startling clarity. These words weren't just philosophical musings. They were battle cries against the very forces that had been eroding his spirit. The Stoic philosophy revealed itself to Marcus not as an academic exercise, but as a practical guide for liberation. It spoke directly to his current predicament: the incessant need for external validation, the anxiety of maintaining appearances, the fear of judgment. What if, he wondered, the path to true freedom wasn't about accumulating more followers or achieving higher status, but about shedding these artificial constraints altogether? What if the solution to his existential crisis lay not in becoming more visible, but in learning how to disappear? Not physically, but from the toxic patterns that bound him. This revelation sparked something deep within Marcus. He began to see his situation not as a personal failing, but as a symptom of a broader societal condition, one where authenticity had been sacrificed at the altar of perpetual connectivity. The Stoics' teachings offered a radical alternative, a way to reclaim his inner fortress, to transform his life not through external achievement, but through internal mastery. The idea of disappearing from the superficial constructs that had defined his existence became less about running away and more about returning home, to himself. The invisible architect Marcus's transformation began not with grand gestures or dramatic exits, but with subtle shifts in perception, inspired by the Stoic principle of controlling only what lies within our power. The first step, he realized, wasn't about changing his external circumstances, but about reconstructing his internal landscape. Drawing from Epictetus's teachings about distinguishing between what we can control and what we cannot, Marcus started documenting every thought, emotion, and reaction throughout his day. This practice, which the Stoics called the examination of impressions, became his foundation for understanding how deeply his thoughts were entangled with external validation. Each morning, Marcus would sit at his kitchen table with a simple notebook, deliberately writing down every instance where he felt compelled to check his phone, respond to emails immediately, or modify his behavior based on imagined judgments. Through this meticulous self-observation, patterns emerged that startled him. He noticed how often his decisions were influenced by phantom audiences, imaginary critics whose opinions he had unconsciously internalized over years of social conditioning. These insights aligned perfectly with Seneca's wisdom. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Armed with this awareness, Marcus implemented what he called the invisibility protocol, a series of daily practices designed to systematically dismantle his dependence on external validation. First, he established strict boundaries around his digital presence. Instead of abruptly deleting accounts, which he recognized would only create unnecessary attention, he gradually reduced his engagement. He set specific times for checking emails and social media, treating these periods as necessary evils rather than compulsive habits. When posting content, he adopted a policy of complete indifference to metrics, crafting messages based solely on their intrinsic value rather than their potential for engagement. The next phase involved physical space, a concept Marcus developed after studying Marcus Aurelius's reflections on the transient nature of material possessions. He began rearranging his living environment to reflect his new priorities. Office walls once adorned with achievement plaques and framed certificates transformed into blank canvases, symbolizing his commitment to inner work over external recognition. His wardrobe simplified, replacing designer labels with functional clothing that required no maintenance of image. Even his commute changed. He started walking instead of driving, choosing routes that took him through quiet neighborhoods rather than bustling streets. Perhaps most transformative was Marcus's approach to social interactions. Rather than withdrawing completely, he practiced what he termed selective transparency. In conversations, he consciously avoided sharing information that served no purpose other than to maintain appearances. When colleagues asked about his weekend plans, he responded with generalities rather than detailed itineraries. At parties, he listened more than he spoke, discovering that true connection often came not from presenting oneself, but from being present for others. This practice aligned with Epictetus's advice. If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. Marcus also embraced what he called intentional invisibility in his professional life. Instead of seeking credit for his contributions, he focused on the quality of his work itself. During meetings, he stopped volunteering for high-profile projects unless they genuinely interested him. When praise came his way, he redirected it to his team, practicing what the Stoics called amor fati, love of one's fate. This shift wasn't easy. Old habits of seeking recognition died hard. But each time he resisted the urge to claim credit or seek acknowledgement, he felt a subtle strengthening of his inner resolve. To anchor these changes, Marcus created a personal ritual inspired by the Stoic practice of evening reflection. Before bed, he would review his day, asking 3 questions. Where did I act out of fear of judgment? When did I prioritize being seen over being? How could I have disappeared more fully into the moment? These reflections weren't exercises in self-criticism, but opportunities for growth, helping him identify areas where old patterns still held sway. Most importantly, Marcus learned to embrace what the Stoics called the view from above, a mental exercise of imagining oneself from a cosmic perspective. When feeling anxious about visibility or recognition, he would visualize Earth from space, then zoom in slowly to his city, his building, his room. This practice helped him maintain perspective on what truly mattered, making the noise of social expectations seem increasingly distant and irrelevant. Through these deliberate practices, Marcus wasn't trying to become invisible in the literal sense, but to cultivate what the Stoics described as inner citadel, a fortress of the mind impervious to external disturbances. He discovered that true disappearance wasn't about hiding, but about becoming so attuned to his authentic self that the need for external validation naturally dissolved. Like a master architect, he was rebuilding his life from the inside out, laying foundations that couldn't be shaken by the winds of public opinion or the tides of social media trends. The crucible of transformation, the true test of Marcus's journey, came unexpectedly on a crisp autumn morning, when a major client account, a cornerstone of his professional identity, suddenly collapsed. The fallout was swift and brutal. Within hours, senior partners were demanding explanations. Colleagues whispered behind closed doors and industry blogs speculated about his competence. The digital world, which he had worked so diligently to distance himself from, now amplified every misstep and criticism. For the first time since beginning his transformation, Marcus felt the full force of external judgment crashing against his carefully constructed inner citadel. At first, old reflexes threatened to take over. His hand hovered over his phone, itching, to craft a defensive response on LinkedIn. Memories of past crises flooded back, reminding him how he used to manage such situations through carefully calculated public relations maneuvers. But something fundamental had shifted within him. Instead of reacting, Marcus retreated to his meditation space, a small corner of his apartment where he kept his growing collection of Stoic texts. There, he opened his worn copy of Seneca's letters and read aloud, "No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have, and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have." This moment marked the beginning of what Marcus later called the Great Unraveling. Over the following weeks, he faced a cascade of challenges that tested every aspect of his new philosophy. Clients he had taken for granted began questioning his capabilities. Some friends, confused by his recent detachment from social circles, drifted away. Even his family struggled to understand his apparent withdrawal from the ambitious trajectory they had always supported. Each loss felt like a thread being pulled from the fabric of his constructed identity. But amidst this chaos, something remarkable happened. Without the pressure of maintaining appearances, Marcus found himself responding to crises with unprecedented clarity. When senior partners demanded immediate solutions, he answered not with defensive posturing but with honest assessments and practical plans. Meetings that once filled him with anxiety became opportunities to demonstrate genuine problem-solving skills rather than polished presentations. Colleagues who initially distanced themselves began noticing his calm demeanor and started seeking his counsel on their own challenges. The turning point came during a particularly tense board meeting. As accusations flew across the conference table, Marcus sat quietly observing the storm without participating in it. When finally addressed, he responded not with excuses but with a simple statement. "I accept full responsibility for my role in this situation, and I'm committed to learning from it." This response, so contrary to typical corporate defensiveness, stunned the room into silence. One by one, others began acknowledging their own contributions to the failure, transforming what could have been a blame fest into a constructive dialogue about systemic improvements. As the dust settled, Marcus discovered that his greatest strength lay not in avoiding judgment but in facing it head-on with Stoic principles. He applied what he called voluntary discomfort, a practice of deliberately exposing himself to challenging situations to build resilience. During lunch breaks, he would walk through the office cafeteria alone, even when invited to join popular groups. At networking events, he practiced approaching strangers without any agenda beyond genuine connection. Each encounter became a microcosm of his larger transformation, reinforcing his ability to remain centered regardless of external circumstances. The financial impact of losing the major account hit hard, forcing Marcus to make difficult choices. He sold his luxury apartment and moved to a modest rental, explaining to concerned friends that he preferred fewer square feet and more peace of mind. His wardrobe shrank further, consisting now of basic essentials that required no maintenance of image. Yet with each material sacrifice, he experienced a corresponding expansion of inner freedom. The anxiety that once accompanied financial setbacks gave way to a calm acceptance of fortune's fluctuations, echoing Epictetus's teaching. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Perhaps most significantly, Marcus found himself developing deeper connections with those who remained in his life. Freed from the need to impress or defend his status, he engaged with people more authentically. A former mentor, witnessing his transformation, remarked, "You've become invisible to the world, but more visible to those who truly matter." This observation resonated deeply with Marcus, who realized that his disappearance from superficial networks had created space for meaningful relationships to flourish. Through this crucible of challenges, Marcus embodied what the Stoics called the art of acquiescence, the ability to align oneself with nature's flow rather than resist it. Each obstacle became an opportunity to practice virtue, each setback a chance to demonstrate resilience. He maintained a daily journal of these experiences, not to document his suffering but to track his progress in maintaining equanimity. Entries that once focused on external achievements now celebrated internal victories, moments of patience during frustration, displays of courage in the face of fear, instances of compassion amid conflict. By embracing these trials through the lens of Stoic philosophy, Marcus transformed what could have been a career-ending disaster into a profound period of growth. The very challenges that threatened to expose his vulnerabilities instead revealed his strength. Like metal forged in fire, his character emerged stronger and more refined, proving that true disappearance isn't about escaping difficulties, but about transcending them through inner mastery. The metamorphosis. Within, as months turned into years, Marcus Hawthorne stood transformed, not through external achievement but through the gradual unfolding of his inner revolution. The man who once measured success by corner offices and follower counts now found fulfillment in the simplest moments, the quiet satisfaction of completing a task well, the genuine smile of a colleague grateful for his guidance, the peaceful solitude of evening reflections. His metamorphosis wasn't marked by dramatic external changes, but by subtle shifts that spoke volumes about his inner transformation. Professionally, Marcus had evolved from a high-powered marketer chasing metrics to what colleagues now respectfully called the invisible architect. He continued working in the same field, but approached his craft with an entirely different mindset. Projects that once consumed him with anxiety about results now became laboratories for practicing virtue. He mentored younger colleagues not through formal programs but through organic interactions, sharing wisdom gained from both success and failure. His leadership style, characterized by quiet confidence and unwavering integrity, earned him a reputation as someone who could be trusted in any situation, a form of influence far more substantial than any title or position. Socially, Marcus had cultivated what he termed invisible connections, relationships built on authenticity rather than appearance. His circle of friends had naturally contracted, but those who remained shared a depth of understanding that transcended casual acquaintance. Dinner parties became intimate gatherings where meaningful conversations flowed freely, unencumbered by the need to impress or perform. Even his relationship with family had deepened as his newfound calmness and presence allowed for more genuine interactions. His teenage niece, once dismissive of his corporate uncle, now sought his advice on navigating her own journey through social pressures. Perhaps most profoundly, Marcus had discovered what the Stoics called true wealth, freedom from the tyranny of external circumstances. Financial stability had returned, but this time without the accompanying anxiety about maintaining it. He lived comfortably but simply, finding joy in experiences rather than possessions. His mornings began with gratitude rather than goal setting. His evenings ended with reflection rather than result analysis. This shift in focus had transformed his entire experience of life, replacing the constant striving for more with appreciation for what was already present. The disappearance Marcus had sought wasn't about becoming unseen but about becoming whole, where once he had fragmented himself across multiple personas, professional, social media personality, family member, he now existed as a unified individual. The energy previously spent maintaining appearances redirected itself toward personal growth and meaningful contribution. He had become, in essence, invisible to the superficial world, while becoming more visible to his authentic self. This transformation manifested in unexpected ways. Strangers often commented on his presence, describing it as calming or grounding. Colleagues sought his advice not because of his position, but because of his perspective. Even in crowded rooms, there was something about Marcus that suggested he occupied a different space, one beyond the reach of petty concerns and surface-level judgments. This quality, which he had worked so hard to cultivate, now seemed to radiate naturally from him. Looking back on his journey, Marcus realized that his initial desire to disappear had been merely the seed of a much deeper transformation. What began as an escape from external pressures had blossomed into a complete reorientation of his relationship with the world. He understood now that true disappearance wasn't about removing oneself from life, but about engaging with it more fully, from a place of inner strength rather than external validation. The man who had once feared judgment now moved through the world with the quiet confidence of someone who had made peace with both praise and criticism. In his private journal, Marcus documented this final realization. The ultimate disappearance is not from the eyes of others but from the tyranny of one's own fears. To be truly free is to exist without needing to be seen, to act without seeking approval, to live without attachment to outcomes. This is not death but rebirth, the emergence of a self that needs no audience, no applause, no justification beyond its own existence. The living legacy Marcus Hawthorne's transformation stands as a testament to the enduring power of Stoic philosophy in navigating the complexities of modern existence. His journey reveals that the path to true freedom isn't found in accumulating external markers of success, but in cultivating inner mastery, a process that requires neither isolation nor rejection of society, but rather a fundamental shift in how we relate to the world around us. The principles that guided Marcus's metamorphosis offer universal lessons applicable to anyone seeking to transcend the superficial demands of contemporary life. Firstly, Marcus's experience demonstrates that true disappearance isn't about physical withdrawal, but about psychological emancipation. By systematically dismantling his dependence on external validation, he discovered that the most profound liberation comes from within. This process begins with self-awareness, the meticulous observation of one's thoughts and reactions, and evolves into conscious choice-making. Readers can apply this lesson by implementing their own version of Marcus's examination of impressions, tracking how external influences shape their internal state, and deliberately choosing responses that align with authentic values rather than social expectations. The importance of gradual transformation cannot be overstated. Marcus's success stemmed not from radical change but from consistent, incremental adjustments to his daily routines and thought patterns. This approach mirrors the Stoic practice of premeditation of adversity, where one mentally prepares for challenges in advance, building resilience through repeated exposure to manageable difficulties. Modern readers can adopt similar strategies by creating personal rituals that reinforce desired behaviors, whether it's setting boundaries around technology use, simplifying living spaces, or cultivating mindfulness through regular reflection. Furthermore, Marcus's journey illuminates the power of selective transparency in social interactions. By choosing when and how to share aspects of his life, he demonstrated that meaningful connection doesn't require constant availability or oversharing. This lesson holds particular relevance in today's digital age, where the pressure to maintain a perpetual online presence can lead to superficial relationships. Readers can experiment with their own forms of selective transparency, focusing on quality over quantity in their interactions and prioritizing genuine engagement over performative participation. Perhaps most importantly, Marcus's story underscores the transformative potential of viewing challenges as opportunities for growth. His response to professional setbacks exemplifies the Stoic principle of amor fati, embracing all aspects of life as essential components of one's development. By reframing obstacles as chances to practice virtue, Marcus transformed potentially devastating experiences into catalysts for deeper self-understanding. This perspective offers readers a powerful framework for approaching their own difficulties, encouraging them to meet adversity with curiosity rather than resistance. The legacy of Marcus's transformation extends beyond his personal achievements to encompass broader implications for modern society. His journey suggests that true influence stems not from visibility or status, but from the quiet consistency of principled action. In a world obsessed with metrics and measurable impact, Marcus's evolution reminds us that some of the most significant changes occur beneath the surface, shaping not just individual lives but the collective consciousness of communities. His example challenges us to reconsider what constitutes meaningful success and to recognize that the most profound transformations often happen in silence, away from the spotlight of public acknowledgement. Ultimately, Marcus's story serves as a living blueprint for anyone seeking to navigate the paradoxes of contemporary life. It demonstrates that disappearing from the superficial constructs of modern society doesn't mean retreating from engagement, but rather approaching it from a place of authentic presence. By embracing the Stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, individuals can construct their own inner citadels, fortresses of the mind that provide sanctuary from external pressures, while enabling meaningful participation in the world. The journey may be challenging, requiring patience and perseverance, but the rewards, a life of genuine purpose, deep connection, and inner peace, are worth every step along the path.